all my Zooms. And the reason why I like to record my Zooms is so we have them for training purposes later on. That available resource right there. All right. My name is Patrick Schomiger, and I work for the Southwest Arkansas Educational Cooperative here in Hope, Arkansas. I'm our behavior specialist for early childhood. This is my third year. I'm really excited. I've been learning a lot of stuff, behavior, in the last year. I went back to school to get my applied behavior analysis certificate, which means I'll be sitting for my board exam for BCBA hopefully next year in the summertime. So I'm really excited about all the stuff I've been learning, and I really honestly just want to share it to everybody because there's so much to behavior out there. If you just stop and think about what we do is behavior, everything that we do. So it just kind of opens the door to so many different things that we kind of forget about. It's not just problem behaviors, it's not just autism. Like I said before, I'm one of the early childhood behavior support specialists. There are several of us throughout the state. We work for our individual cooperatives. We serve early childhood, and we are affiliated. We don't really work directly for the Department of Ed. We work mainly for our cooperatives. Each co-op's different, but for my co-op, we serve special education kids. So if you have a IEP, we are more likely to serve you. But that doesn't mean that I don't serve kids without one. It just makes life a little bit easier when you have one. Otherwise, I could offer a consultation, some tips and strategies, some ideas. But at the same time, I've been trying to tell people it's really hard to offer a great plan without a lot of information. The more information, the more I'm involved with the client in a situation, the better the treatment or the better the intervention, which is what we want anyways. We're all, like I said earlier, we're all located at the educational cooperatives. I kind of changed it this year for everybody to kind of let y'all know. Behavior specialists, we don't fix kids. We don't fix problems. We don't have a magic wand or pixie dust or anything like that. We work to look at socially significant issues with our clients, with our children, to make things better for everyone following around. We are data driven. We need data. We need to know what's going on and use that information to gather and determine the best plan. I mean, wouldn't you want us to have the plan based on the facts, not just what everyone told us they thought? All interventions are evidence-based, which means research supports interventions and strategies. It's a big reason why ABA is a huge fan of autism kids, because a lot of people like those evidence-based strategies. But basically, ABA, we pull from research. We use research guided interventions that are backed by the science to look for reducing those behaviors, inappropriate behaviors. We also train, coach, and support you guys. It's basically what we do. That's why I've been working really hard on the training component this year. I don't think there's enough training for early childhood, so that's a big thing I've been pushing for this year, regardless of COVID. We really need help in that area. We also provide consultation, of course, to our clients, but also to other members of the IEP team or people involved with the client. We also do direct observation. We also review records. We also complete FBAs as needed. And then we determine at that point if we need to do a behavior plan. We also create safety plans for our kids. Sometimes we just need a good plan to help figure out what's going on to help everyone involved with that client. We also train school personnel regarding instruction and behavioral strategies. That's a tough pill to swallow. I used to be a teacher. I taught third grade. I don't like someone coming in my classroom and telling me how I need to teach. But I do it with love, and I offer tips and strategies like today based on things that I think could work, I think could really help. We work in public school-based classroom, which is probably more or less ABC around at least my neck of the woods. Daycare, various daycare providers, Head Start programs. We have itinerant services. Those are kids who are at home and come into our classrooms or come into our spots to receive the services, home-based instruction, and there are faith-based centers. I've actually had a few clients at a Christian place. Let's go ahead and dive on into positive reinforcement. Positive reinforcement isn't the good reinforcement. And when we start talking about negative reinforcement, that necessarily isn't the bad reinforcement. When we talk about reinforcement, our goal is to increase that behavior we want. And when we think of positive, we're going to add something. So let's put that all together. We're going to add something to increase the behavior we want to see. Please try to mute yourself if possible. And as some people are coming in, make sure you put your name and your PDR number in the chat box in case I have forgot to say that. Positive reinforcement is the most widely important and applied. Well, I'm going to restart that. Positive reinforcement is the most important and widely applied principle of behavior. Reinforcement is a cornerstone and a big foundation of everything that happens in applied behavior analysis. That's our ultimate goal, is to use reinforcement whenever, and then if some of our reinforcement strategies don't work, then we start to consider punishment. But we always want to look at reinforcement first. Reinforcement is huge. When we look at reinforcement, like I said earlier, we're gonna add something, and we're going to increase that behavior in the future. So if I get money for doing something that I was supposed to do, I'm going to increase that response, that effect in the future. My response is going to be the behavior. It's going to be the thing that I want the child to do. So in other words, if you don't have something and you get that something in the future, you're going to want to get it. The best example I've been using with my staff when we did these trainings was a toy. You know, we always think in the classroom with the center with toy cars or toy blocks that he just took it because he just wanted to take it. No, he wanted something he didn't have. He grabbed that toy, he got it, and he's going to do that more in the future. He's going to increase that behavior. You know, he doesn't have a Coke. He doesn't have that drink. He asks for a Coke, and then in the future, he's going to ask for it because he got it. When we think of positive reinforcement, we really think about something pleasant that was added, something that I wanted to get, and then we earn that reinforcement. The reinforcement, the reinforcer, or whatever we want to call it, it happens after that desirable behavior. So in this case, when Johnny didn't have a Coke and he got that drink, he got what he wanted, he's going to ask for it more in the future. There's so many different examples of the way you look at this. My wife likes going to Kohl's, and they give her Kohl's cash. She didn't have as much before. You know, she knows if she wants to get Kohl's cash, she has to buy something. So she gets something pleasant added after her shopping experience, that Kohl's cash. And what is she going to do? She's probably going to go to Kohl's more often, do some more shopping, and get some more Kohl's cash. That increases her behavior. That's the goal of positive reinforcement. We're trying to increase the behavior in the future. It's a big reason why token boards and penny boards and tagulators and all kinds of stuff are popular, because we're really trying to find that reinforcer that the child really wants to work for, and we're using that to increase behavior in the future. Um, like I said earlier, with the toy example, um, he doesn't have the toy, he wants the toy, and what's he going to do more or less in the future? He's going to do that behavior that got him that toy. Um, he's not trying to be a terrible child. He's not trying to be a handful. He's just at 3, 4 years old has learned that this kind of behavior gets me that toy. And it gets me that toy for the remainder of that center time. It's inappropriate for us. It's inappropriate for, that context. So that's why it's really important to teach that replacement behavior. But in the terms in the world of positive reinforcement, when he works for that toy, he tries to get that toy, inappropriately or not, it's reinforcing. When we use a penny board and when we use a token board and when we use all these reinforcement strategies, there has to be an immediacy with it. There has to be a speed. If you did something that you were supposed to do and you got reinforced for it the next day or a week from today or 2 weeks from today, it's going to lose flavor. It's going to lose that strength. If I took the trash out for my wife and she gave me praise right to the trash out, that's reinforcing to me. I'm probably going to, be a little bit quicker on making sure the trash can is emptied and put away faster. We're all that way as humans. We like having that reinforcement quicker. If you're doing a treasure chest or a treasure box or anything in the classroom, why are we waiting until Friday? Let's work for the moment. We can always build on that moment and stretch that moment out, but we need to be reinforcing a lot quicker. Otherwise, we might be reinforcing the wrong behavior. When you want to reinforce, when you go to a restaurant, you like to wait. There's a reason why it's called fast food. You want your reinforcement quick. You place your order and you want your food to come out in a relatively quick time. Well, that food's reinforcing. So if you put that spin on a child, and when they do behavior that they're supposed to do, they're going to want reinforcement a little bit quicker. And it doesn't always have to be a toy. It doesn't always have to be a high five. It could be praise. But nonetheless, we need that reinforcement quickly. When the immediacy of their response, it strengthens that reinforcement. It strengthens that behavior that precedes it. So that's why it's important to reinforce quickly. Later on, and if we use punishment, same kind of theory. If you're going to punish or you're going to reinforce, you need to move quickly. You don't need to wait. Otherwise, you could punish, or in this case, you could reinforce the wrong behavior. So you want to reinforce that behavior you're looking for. It's critical for the consequence is delivered immediately following the target response. Okay, a lot of stuff happening toward the end, but basically in a nutshell, we want to reinforce the behavior they're supposed to do. We don't want to wait down the road. We don't want to wait later down the day. We want to hit that moment when it hits. Problems with delayed reinforcement. Other behaviors occur while you're waiting. While you're waiting to get that treasure chest box out, while you're waiting to reinforce something else, other behaviors occur. And the behavior closest to when you give that cookie, that praise, that high five, that whatever, that's the behavior reinforced. I went with my wife and my oldest one day, we went to the store and we're getting a few things before we went to the baseball game. And it was kind of a rough car ride. We were all three having a rough day. And when he went to the store, she realized, oh, she promised him a bunch of fishing gear for stuff that he did at the house. Well, it kind of, it irked me a little bit. And I talked to her and we talked it out. And I told him, I understand you're reinforcing those behaviors. He did what he was supposed to do at the house, but we just had a rough car ride. And I don't want him to think that those behaviors in the car, I didn't say it like that, but those behaviors in the car were acceptable. I see my son every couple of weeks. He lives with his mom, and he comes, and when I reinforce him, I have to do it quickly. Hard to wait 2 weeks to reinforce a great behavior, but I can call him or I could do something, but I always try to reinforce that behavior. You really have 3 seconds to reinforce a behavior. There's just something about the number 3 and 3 seconds. Anything really after that is really, you could be hitting something else. If you stop to think about, everything that we do is a behavior. I mean, just about everything that we do. Mostly action verbs and mostly actions that we do, but just about everything is. So with 3 seconds, and you could really hit that appropriate what you're aiming for. If the reinforcer does not immediately follow the response, it's going to reinforce something else. You're going to help out another behavior. So you always want to think of terms of 3 seconds. And there's delayed reinforcement. This is kind of a new thing. Well, not really a new thing, but really I'm thinking about COVID and all these things going on. Rule governed behaviors, we don't get reinforced right away. There's a huge delay. No one's chasing me around town with a token board and a cookie and a Skittle for me driving in the right lane. No one's running around with a bag of M&Ms if I wear my COVID, I wear my mask. So rule governed behaviors are just, we have learned these behaviors through instruction. We've been taught these things. We've learned these behaviors. These are things that we're supposed to do. And then we do these behaviors when no one else is around. It is one of our ultimate goals of teaching. Rule governed behaviors, like I said earlier, they're controlled by rules. You actually have 2 different types of behaviors. One's called a contingency behavior. Those are behaviors that we learned. Those he learned behaviors, and it was a learned behavior. He learned it from somewhere. Well, we learn a lot of behaviors. We do. We learn a lot of behaviors through discovery, through doing things. And we also learn things through rules. When we learn through rules, there's no immediate consequence, and the reinforcement or punishment, it could be a lot longer than 30 seconds. If I clean my house up when my wife's not home and she really likes that, I'm not going to be reinforced when I get done. I'm probably going to get reinforced when she comes home. When she tells me to do things around the house when she's not home, and I do them when she finally gets home, I'm not going to be rewarded at that moment. I'm going to be rewarded down the road. But when we think of our preschool children, when we think of our school-age children, and we think of any children, we think of this. We think of, you're supposed to know, you know better, you know what's going on, and that's not always the case. You have to teach and review all these rule governed behaviors.
So Patrick, we have a comment.
Okay.
Winnie says she agrees. She never understood why they have to wait until the end of the week, that it's so hard for children. In the moment is very important. She says she likes that you identified that just because a child takes something does not mean they are trying to hurt someone. It is because they want it to.
Right. It's just, thank you so much. It's looking at that moment, it's looking at what's going on, and it makes a big difference. It really, really does. Thank you. Delayed reinforcement, like I said earlier, you could be influencing a different behavior, but also delayed consequences can, when combined with language, influence teacher behavior through teaching and rule following. Basically, all these mumbled, jumbled words right here, like I said earlier, Well, that structured classroom that has all the rules in place and has the routines in place and has all these things. It's not like it's a boot camp in that room. They have rules that have been taught, that have been reviewed, and have been followed. And when the teachers, of course, the substitute teacher day is probably the biggest way to see what's going on. But those kids know what to do because they're constantly being taught those rules, and it's constantly influencing their behavior in that classroom. You can't teach something one time and then hope they're gonna know it for the rest of their lives. You have to constantly review, to constantly teach. As parents, we do that all the time. We're constantly teaching and we're constantly reviewing with our children. There's this big thing out there, and everyone tells me reinforcement doesn't work. It doesn't work. You're talking to the wrong person. Well, I bet every one of us in this workshop right now is getting a paycheck. So you are receiving money for your time at work. You're being reinforced by going to work. So if you think reinforcement doesn't work, then just go ahead and give your paycheck back to your employer. I mean, I don't think anybody is going to do that. But that's one way of looking at reinforcement. Bribery is not reinforcement. Bribery is giving something and you're going to cross your fingers and you're going to hope that the behavior will go away. Things are going to get better. But if you reinforce after the behavior you like, that behavior will increase in the future.
So Patrick, I have another comment. Melody says that she says, I've seen in some early childhood programs, treasure boxes and things of that sort has been taken away or frowned upon. Is this a practice across the board or specified to one particular program?
Treasure boxes only work if you have a plan with it. I think of treasure boxes when I did one in third grade, before I did the whole behavior trail, or the whole behavior classes and all these things. On Friday, we would go to the behavior, we go to the treasure chest, and everyone would get something, how they were on Friday. I wasn't reinforcing behavior throughout the week. I was reinforcing good and bad stuff on Friday. So I don't know if that's everywhere, but my thing about treasure chests and treasure boxes are you have to have a plan with it. If you're just passing out stuff on Friday based on what you thought the week went, then you're gonna be rewarding behaviors that are inappropriate. You're also gonna reinforce behaviors that are appropriate, but you're hoping you're catching those things. At least I was. And I've seen treasure chests fail in a lot of classrooms because we picked something out at the end of the day or we picked it out on Friday, but we don't have anything to go with it. If you're going to use treasure chest, in my opinion, you need to have some kind of strategy with it. You could cut one of these guys in half. Actually, I think it works down to like 8 equal cuts on a pool noodle, and you could have a class-wide tabulator token board, and the whole class could earn something on Friday. Of course, we have our individual token boards or penny boards, where the child could earn something that day, and then you could kind of stretch it out toward. But my thing on treasure boxes are, you have a bag of stuff or a box of stuff, and if you don't have a plan, a strategy, then you're just kind of hoping. At least, like I said, at least kind of was that way with me. And I hope I answered your question. If I had turned the clock back, I think I wouldn't have done a treasure chest. I don't think I would have done a treasure box. I think I would have done something more in the lines of what we're going to talk about here in a little bit. Maybe a star chart, maybe a token economy, and my kids will work towards something, because you have to know what you're working toward. Like I said, if not, you're really hitting and missing. You really are. I got another comment.
So
Right.
Dana says reinforcement doesn't have to be tangible. It can be being a helper or a line leader, etc.
Right. The sky is a limit when it comes to reinforcement. And we're going to talk about different types of backup reinforcers. You know, the line leader sitting with the teacher during lunch. The sky is the limit when it comes to reinforcers. It doesn't always have to be a car. There's actually several different types of reinforcers, which we're going to talk about later. I mean, food's one, praise is one, attention's one, sensory. I mean, there's just a whole bunch of different kinds. I think we've all heard about this maybe once or twice. If not, I'm sorry if this is brand new. If you have a behavior specialist in your area or someone, and they told you in the following years to map out, I need data. Here's a 3-term ABC chart. Can you just help me out what happened before and what was the behavior and what happened afterwards? Well, I'm not doing it at all in my corner. I'm just doing a whole different data collection thing. But I want to kind of give you guys a kind of a breakdown on this real fast on that ABC chart that you always see. A is going to be your antecedent. That's going to be your trigger. That's going to be your setting event. What happened right before they did whatever they did? And then your behavior is your response, that behavior. And then consequent is not always punishment. It's just what happened after the behavior occurred. So for example, Frank got off the bus. No, let's do homework. Let's do homework. Frank was giving 10 multiplication problems. After he got the multiplication problems, he ripped his paper in half. And then after the teacher gave him a new paper or sent him to the office. So your trigger would really be he was given those 10 multiplication problems, then his behavior would be ripping them, and the consequence would be what happened afterwards. I just saw a comment. I don't want to miss it.
The comment is, in this scenario, the teacher was using it as a positive reinforcement, but the program did not want the teacher to use it. She's talking about the treasure boxes.
Yeah.
The program did not want the teacher to use it. They only encouraged teachers to use praise, but to give it to all the children, no matter the behavior of the student.
That's a tough one right there. I mean, because you don't want to give praise too much, and praise needs to be specific. And then I know what the idea behind that is, because eventually you want to get away from passing out trinkets and toys and items and activities and all that stuff, and you want them to earn praise. But that's kind of hard starting out by itself, especially in our age group. And I'm not trying to cut down the program or build them up, but that's tough. A lot of stuff that we're doing that, I'm going to talk about today also, our hands are tied in a lot of areas. Eckers doesn't really want a star chart. Eckers isn't really big on the whole group contingency. I know it gets kind of struggling a little bit. That sounds kind of a little bit different there. We also have automatic reinforcement. Automatic reinforcement is no one gave you that certain thing. It doesn't require help from somebody else. It kind of looks like a sensory type of thing. If I'm outside or I'm hungry or I'm hungry and I want food and I reinforce myself. It's basically I didn't get help from somebody else. Yeah, I totally agree. It really, when you're giving praise, praise to everybody, it turns into that everyone's a winner when you're really trying to, be more specific. That's tough. That really is tough because you really need to reinforce the behaviors that you need to reinforce and not just reinforce everything. But that's a really tough road there. But we also have different types of reinforcers. We have unconditioned reinforcers. These are reinforcers that we didn't have to be taught We just know that these are things that are reinforcing. I need air to breathe. No one taught me, or no one had teach me that, or through a token board or anything, that I need to have air, and air is reinforcing. Water or food is the same thing. So these are things that you don't want to hold back from a child, but they're also reinforcing. Um, Food is, it's kind of a taboo to a lot of different people, but it also only works in certain parts of the day. If a child just had breakfast and you're passing out Skittles and Cheerios as reinforcers right after breakfast, they're not going to work for them as hard because they just had breakfast. If you're going to use Cheerios as a reinforcer right after lunchtime, they already had lunch. So that food doesn't have value anymore. It will have more value during snack time. But these are the products of our natural history. And then we have things that were conditioned, that were just, they didn't have any value. And now through learning, they have value. There are certain toys and certain specific toys in their classroom that kids want to have. They weren't born thinking Transformers were cool. They have learned in the classroom. They've been conditioned. Money. You weren't born thinking money has value. You have been conditioned. You have been taught your entire life that money has value. That you pair money with so many different things. You were never taught that. Praise is, it's a reinforcer we ultimately want to get to, and a social one, the high fives and all that. But these are once again things that we have learned to value.
So Wendy also says, I like that you should have a plan for the treasure box, maybe a staff meeting to collaborate the best measure to make it successful in promoting the best that they can do and strive to do better.
And Wendy, I have a plan, a breakdown of how to plan for a token economy, and that would probably be something that I could definitely get to you guys, not just in this presentation. I should be included on here, but that will give us a plan. Because when you plan for the token economy, when you plan for that, you could add that treasure chest to it. I'm used to y'all's questions. It's been kind of quiet in most stuff that I do, but I appreciate it, guys. I really, really do. Generalized condition reinforcers, they've been paired a lot. And they have a really, really good, they're going to be effective all the time. I saw that Target coupon, but I was really kind of rooting for Kohl's Cash. Kohl's Cash has been, it's just as effective as a token. It pretty much is a token, to be honest with you. It's just like money. Um, it's been we've learned through our shopping habits at Kohl's or our shopping habits at Target that these coupons and these Kohl's Cash things are so reinforcing. We've been taught that. Going back to the treasure chest thing, when you plan a token economy, I'm going to call it a token economy, and you plan that token system through your token board or your group thing or all those things, those tokens now have more value. And you're not passing out. It don't have to be just a little. It doesn't have to be a penny board. It could be dollars and different kind of things. I was working with a 16-year-old this time last year. He had very aggressive tendencies, very aggressive behaviors. I love working with him. I did. He loved to work for candy. So I would up the value of a token during that session to earn that money. So he could earn candy. Not all the time. I don't want to just give him, just to give. But at the beginning, I was looking for all those behaviors that I wanted him to do.
So Wendy says, with a plan, this is a way that the teachers that have no control on the decision of using one or not, they will have a guide to use it successfully.
Definitely, definitely, because you have a plan. Even with a token board, you have a plan. I think a lot of times when we use a token board or we use those type of token economies, we just go crazy. And but you have to have, what are you looking for? What are you rewarding? What do they get for doing these certain things? And then you can start to fade it out. Then you can start to stretch it out. And then that natural praise can be replaced. You always want to use praise, but you also want to use specific praise. You don't want to just say good job and awesome all the time. You want to say, like conscious discipline training. I don't know if y'all had conscious discipline, but I love how we do the very specific praise. I like how you're standing in line with your arms like this. I like how you're doing this. Very specific praise. And then we could phase out those different things. I know we said earlier that it doesn't always have to be a tangible car. We can use edibles. It can be sensory, and it can also be an activity. My child will work for an activity. My child, he's 9 years old. He's about to turn 9 years old. He loves activities. He loves just spending time with me. So a board game or a video game or going outside and playing an activity, that's reinforcing to him for doing an appropriate behavior around the house on a visit. Every kid's different. This is where you can get kind of really super creative on a list of different things that your kids can work for. But you also want to have more than one. If there are kids that are dinosaurs is their thing, or trains, or whatever else, and I knew a kid that would walk on a balance beam for a dinosaur. I knew a kid that would do anything for a train. Well, not every kid's like that. We're not like that as adults. I like cheeseburgers, but I'm not willing to eat one every single day. I do like going to McDonald's, but I'm not going to go there every single day. I like to mix things up a little bit. I like different types of reinforcers. And we're all the same way. So you definitely want to get an idea of what's going on. And you can learn what a child wants through, there's preference assessments, and there's also reinforcement inventories. There's also a difference there too. On an inventory, you find out what mom says the child likes, or the dad, or the guardian, or whoever. It's kind of like that Christmas thing. What does he want for Christmas? Well, mom says he wants this. Is that what he really wants? Or is that what mom thinks he wants? And then you do a preference assessment and you find out what he really wants. And I just got done doing one with a child last week. And we used this little chart right here, and we found 6 things in the classroom. And through pairing, I found out what he likes to play with. So there's a variety of things that our kids are willing to work for. Social reinforcers are high fives and, of course, praise. This is where we want to get. This is the ultimate right here. We always say, he wants our attention. Well, what kid doesn't want your attention? So attention has that reinforcing quality about it. It is a social reinforcer. But when you pair that praise with that Cheerio, or you pair that praise with that car, with that token, with that something, and then you take that something away and you leave praise standing, or the high five, that's our ultimate. As adults, we mostly get praise. I don't think that we really get anything else. We get reinforced with other things, but for the most part, as adults, we don't have a token board in our back pocket, and we're being, okay, he went to the bathroom 5 times. Okay, Patrick gets this. That doesn't happen. I get praise for doing good things around the house or at work. I get, a high five from my kids for doing the right thing. Like I said earlier, when you also want to identify those reinforcers, you could use preference assessments, and you could also use reinforcer inventories. But remember, preferences change over time. So you also want to kind of keep an eye out. Where do they play the most in the centers at? What toys are they mostly with? What activities in the classroom are most reinforcing? Line leader, sitting by a teacher during lunch, sitting in a special chair. It always changes. Just because you like something doesn't mean you're also willing to work for it. See, you need to remember that too. If someone likes Coke because of the Christmas commercials and the bear, doesn't mean they're going to work for a Coke. They're going to work for that drink. So you need to be aware of, there's a lot of different ways of what it's reinforcing to the child. All right, this should really kind of get us excited because this will kind of answer a lot of our treasure chest questions and our plan and our strategies question. We're going to talk about a token economy and all the ways to implement it and what takes place. Okay.
Patrick, I just want to let you know, Miss Lizzie says that she finds this to be very useful for her preschoolers.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. This is really a four-part series. I'm kind of trying to drive into a 2-hour deal, but I have each of my one parts, really spread out more, and they're all recorded. So if you want to get with Diana when we're done what's done today, I'm willing to share all those resources and everything. I'm just trying to give you guys an overview of reinforcement and punishment. But here's the token economy and kind of a little overview before I get started.
Love the visual display.
I kind of broke it down to what I told you the plan. First you want to choose that behavior. What are you looking for? We're not looking for everything. We're looking for, obviously something more specific. We want to make tokens. We use a token board, money, coins, whatever system you have in place. And then you want to have that visual set up also. And then we're going to choose our reinforcer. And what are they going to work toward? And then of course you want to have your ratio. You always want to start out small, and then you want to start out big. That's when that ratio is super important. It doesn't always have to be You know, it could be 3 starting out, 2 starting out, a small number that's achievable. You know, think about yourself. If you do something and you start out, you know, doing really, really good, you're getting some confidence, right? And then things get a little bit harder. You know, like certain games or a diet or a workout. You know, we start out kind of, achievable but a little hard, but then we stretch it out. Well, that's how token economy is too. You want to start out small, achievable, a lot of successes, and then start to stretch it out. Like for example, if circle time is your toughest part of the day, then we're going to have some small ratios. And then we're going to start stretching it out as circle time goes on. Our goal is to get through circle time without a token economy, but we want to start out that small ratio. Token economy consists of 3 major components. It's a really big part right here. It's not just the strip with the things on it, or it's not just the penny board. It's really important. Those target behaviors, what are they working toward? Why are they earning the treasure chest? Why are they earning those reinforcers? You need to have a list of behaviors. Next, we need our tokens, points, marks, whatever it is that they're using to get those things, to get those reinforcers. It doesn't always have to be a penny board. Now remember, this is individual. This is for one kid. When you start going class-wide, then you gotta start thinking the whole class, what the whole class will earn, what the whole class will get. Doesn't mean you can't have a whole classroom full, but I just want you to remember that. We have our group, and then we have our individual. This is individual. And then we have our menu, if you want to say, of all the things that they're going to work for. It could be privileges, activities, items that they're going to exchange with their tokens. There are different types all over the place. I have superhero tokens. I think they were kind of a big hit my first year because now they're all gone. But, this one child, a lot of my boys like superheroes. I do have some princesses, because I have girls like princesses and girls like different things. I'm a guy, so it's kind of hard for me to have princesses, but it needs to be individual. If Johnny likes trains, we're going to have trains. But you can make it individual. You can use stars. Use coins. You could use a little cup for coin. You could use marbles. You could use anything. It doesn't have to have Velcro on it. But if you're going to use a token board, I would personally have what they're working for right there, whether it's a picture or physically that toy, that item right there. Because when they see it, they're willing to work for it. Like right here, I can do it lunch with a friend. I would have a picture of a child in the classroom that they're going to work toward. There are different token boards and ideas. The tabulator is my favorite. I don't know if I have one because I passed them all out. Let's see if I got one down here. Yeah, I do. Fell apart on me, but I got one. What I do is, if I can get this guy back in shape here for a second. If we were live and in person, we'd be making these guys together right here. But what I have is a dinosaur. And I start out with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 beads. And every time they do what they're supposed to, then we're going to feed the dinosaur. Or we could feed the lion or feed the whatever. We're going to feed. And then I put my finger, I like using the key ring because I can put my finger in it and they could pull it. The idea is for them to have it themselves and clip. I don't trust my preschool kids carrying their own token board, and I don't worry about all that. But sometimes just feeding the animal is reinforcing. But this was my saving grace my first year in this job before I learned all this stuff. And it really helped out. Like I said earlier, pool noodle can be cut for a class-wide one. And we could have on the board things, or on the wall somewhere, the things we can do as a class to achieve it. You know, some schools have their own hallways. You can have like communities. You can go crazy with a big old pool noodle. But you can use fake money. You can use play money and all those things too. My 16-year-old, it was play money, and it really worked really, really well. We also had a menu of what he was working for, each one the cost, and then we also had rules that he helped create too. The client needs to be aware of what they're working toward. I want to know what I'm working toward. Like I said earlier, you can make it more individual to their favorite character. Did I miss a comment? Yeah.
Wendy just says she loves the keychain idea.
When I found out about that, when I found out about this guy fell apart on me here. I love it. I love it. And I carry one when I did home therapy. I carried one in my pocket when I worked with a lot of different kids. And it's amazing what little kid is willing to work for just to feed the whatever. And it's awesome. When you have your token, now we have our, we picked our token, we picked our style, we picked how we're going to do it. And now we're going to come up with backup reinforcers. And this could be a menu of things they're going to work toward. If you want to do the money or the coins or the marbles or whatever, you got to have cost. Otherwise, with our little small token board, you're going to have reinforcement needs to happen quickly. So a choice board would probably work better with a token board. The backup reinforcers, I definitely will. The backup reinforcers are the menu is for those class-wide things as well. They could also work individual-wise too. But the choice board, I like them for immediacy. We got 5, we got 3, we got whatever. Do this, then you'll get this, and it's quick. It's quick. And these guys over here, the menu they have a lot more value. You have to earn more than just 3 or 2 or whatever, but you have to earn those guys. And this is where that treasure chest kind of idea comes in now. You know, if I have 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 choices right there, these are really 9 good choices they're going to work toward. And as they earn throughout the week, their behavior dictates what they can afford on Friday. Versus traditionally, I wonder. Go ahead and get the trigger box. I mean, you had a good day today. Oh, go ahead. Do you really know how it went? Really? I was really bad in 3rd grade when I taught. I had the yellow, the green, the yellow, and the red. And if you're great, you're on green. And if you're in trouble, you're on yellow. And if you're going to the office, you're in red. Man, I wish I never did that, because now my kids know who are the troublemakers. Oh man, Johnny's a troublemaker. He's always on yellow and red. He's a goody two shoes. He's always on green. I'm labeling the kids now, and you can't take it back. My kid can tell you who are the good and bad kids in class. And it's not so much kids are good or bad. It's just they do things to get things. The functions of tokens. You're creating money. That's all you're really creating. You're creating money to earn things. And you're earning money through good behavior. Well, appropriate behavior that you're deciding what's appropriate. The multiple functions of tokens, they work in 3 different ways. They bridge the gap between the time that they earned it to when they get that backup reinforcer. When we feed the dinosaur, that's reinforcing until we get all the way to the top. They also bridge the gap between the behavior. Well, it's kind of the same thing, first and second feel it to me, but we're getting reinforced along the way. And then finally, the tokens take the this has a whole lot of value because we know down the road, like money or Kohl's Cash. You know, the more shopping I do, the more value, the more important they are, and I get to spend more on them. You know, our idea is to create value within our token system. That's the idea. We want to value what we have. I did have a different PowerPoint that really broke down each of these steps, but for time constraints today, I took all that out. But like I said, like I said at the beginning, we want to identify our target behavior. What are we trying to improve? And then we want to select our token. What are we going to do? And then we want to have our menu, our backup reinforcers. What are we working toward? And then, of course, our ratio at the end. These 4 steps, here's your plan right here. Here's your plan. Right there, 4 easy steps. You know, traditionally it's, okay, let's go ahead and do 5, 6, 10. Well, we need to know what the behavior they should be doing, and they need to know what they're working for. But we also want to start small. Yeah, eventually we're going to keep adding to it, and eventually we're going to decrease because we want to fade. If you notice that example, that video, what was she pairing with those tokens? Praise. Very specific praise. So down the road, she could take away that token board, and he could do the same thing with praise. There's your power of praise is. Now, token boards and tagulators, these are great for the individual kid. And there's nothing wrong with this. Hopefully, me and my BCBA supervisor, we're going to do a professional development making token boards for people. As soon as I get word on when that's going to get going, or we're waiting on some grant money, I'll let you know when that happens. We're trying to go to a lot of schools in our area, but I'll just do a little tutorial for you guys how we do it. But that's individual. Now we're going to talk about the group. Now we're going to talk about, you know, the pool noodle, how it could be used for the whole class. Because this is our whole class-wide token board. There are actually 3 different types of group contingencies, group reward systems: independent, dependent, and interdependent. Independent's basically every man for himself. You know, what we're working for is stay to the whole group, and then when that person mates it, like AR reading would probably be the best example of an independent group contingency. If you make your AR goal, you get to be rewarded with an AR party. So for each member who achieves that AR goal, they get to be rewarded. On a class-wide scale, if we're doing the things we're supposed to be, we get rewarded for doing the right things. This would really help out with those attention seekers. We're going to reward them for doing the right things, because bad attention is still attention. But nonetheless, every man for themselves. A star chart, man, I wish we could do it in preschool. I think Eckers has kind of has a problem with posting things everywhere. But I love this because to me, it's like the lottery meets reinforcement. Every time you do a behavior you're supposed to do, you earn a spot on the board. And then at the end of the day, or actually it's once it fills up, once the board fills up, then we have a drawing. And then we have our drawing, and then we earn things. I mean, how cool is that? You do the right thing, you earn more spots on the board, and then when the board's full, it could fill up quickly if we're all doing the things we're supposed to do, and then bam, we get reinforced. That's super cool, and it does have that every man for itself thing going on. Because if you do what you're supposed to do, you earn more opportunities to win things. Dependent is the hero. There is that one kid in the classroom who's supposed to earn it for everybody. I wouldn't do this in preschool. I would be very skeptical. I'd be the situation in general, because it takes the right class. It really takes the right group of kids, because that's a lot of pressure. What if he doesn't always, or she doesn't always earn it for the group? And he's going to get picked on by the group. But the theory behind this one is, as soon as that individual or that small group, then the class gets rewarded along the way. A lot of pressure for a preschool kid. And then interdependent is, now the whole class gets something. When I was in 3rd grade, we had an AR thing where they made AR part of their grade, and I wasn't too excited about it. So what I did was, if everyone made their goal, we had a pizza party. You still got your, required whatever for doing what you're supposed to be, but if everyone did their part, then we all, as a class, got a pizza party. And we did several times that year. There's one girl who read her tail off, and I still consider her, counting for the group, because she read like 50 books and was struggling getting her points, but she was working. And in that case, the whole group was rewarded for the whole effort. But the every man for himself is also good. The interdependent, when the whole group meets the whatever. There's a game called a good behavior game, or the good student game. I think I took that slide out. Let me look ahead real fast. No, I didn't take it out. In those games, look for, I kind of modify it in my brain because I want to look for the good behavior. What the good behavior game does is it looks for the inappropriate behaviors, and you lose tokens, you lose things. So you can make it work for yourself. You can make it work for your classroom, but you divide the class into 2 groups, maybe more groups. And prior to the game, you tell them the group with the fewest marks would be the inappropriate behaviors, or the team with the highest marks could be the appropriate behaviors. And then in that group, they win, whoever has the most or the least. This would be interdependent because that whole group would be successful, not the whole class, just that group. I think this could be successful. I really think this could be on the positive side of it. What are the good things we're looking for? I just don't like the inappropriate side, because I'm always going to be worried that kids are going to pick on kids to stop those behaviors. And yes, that's a reprimand, and yes, it reduces, but I'm always positive. Let's look for what we're supposed to do, and let's increase what we need the kids to be doing. And then let's reward that group. Preference assessments and reinforcer inventories, I touched on this a little bit. This helps us find out what is reinforcing the child. Preference assessments, basically, you grab a bunch of items in the classroom and that you already have available. That could be food, that could be whatever. It's kind of hard to use an activity unless the kid knows exactly what it is. But nonetheless, you're looking for highly preferred items as reinforcers. Reinforcer assessment does work, but you're really asking, at our age group, mom and dad, what they like. And usually we're going to get mom and dad type of answers. It always works out great. I haven't had anything fail yet, but it does, to me, I prefer the preference assessment, because I want to know what I have in my classroom that's reinforcing versus what works at home. But they could also tell me, and it does work. It really does help. A single stimulus preference assessment is basically, I just put one thing in front of the child and I record how long they play with it. Sounds pretty simple. And after a series of trials, we find out what the preferred thing is. This is my favorite, and I think this is probably the best for our age group. We put 2 things in front of them, and what they go toward after each trial, We take that data and then we find out, okay, this is what they like. I got a spreadsheet. I'll share it with you guys where I plug in all the trials and I have percentages, and it really, breaks it down. Okay, he likes trains 83%, likes cars 80%, and so on, so on. It really breaks it down. But like I said, my favorite part, 2 things, not a whole bunch, just 2, and they're picking. Because now at the next 2, we have a whole smorgasbord buffet of toys. And with our kids, I don't know about y'all, but my kids, they're just like squirrel, and all over the place. So I don't want to have a whole buffet of items. I want 2. And plus, it's going to be hard to keep track of after you provide 2 things. But multiple stimulus is basically, like I just said, a whole bunch of items. We're going to replace it or we're not going to replace it. But the paired is my favorite with our age group. And then we also have a brief operant. All that means is, how long do they play somewhere? We're going to have a stopwatch, and we're going to just keep track of how long they play with different toys. But you can also do this when you're having your kids in centers or having your kids play with certain activities. How long were they with this one preferred item? But we're also trying to find things that are in the classroom. We're trying to find more natural things. And you can do a lot of teaching when you find out all these natural reinforcers also. I used to have a perfection game, and it would, whatever, and it was for my boy, and he played with it a few times, and then he got tired of it, so I started using it with my clients. And he loved the letters. Well, after a while, I could put a handful over here, and I could pull a couple at a time and ask them questions, have them do things for me, and then give them more. That's a whole new lesson right there, guys, of pivotal response training and how it's student led, and we have these reinforcers, and they're kind of calling the shots in their little play area, and we're using this thing that they have to kind of guide us on our journey. But we also, like I said earlier, the reinforcement assessment. This is basically, 1 through 10, or however the form. There's tons of forms on Google. I got one form I use that my BCBA supervisor found for me, but it does give me data. It does give me ideas, and it does help with interventions, and does help me with a lot of things that we do. But like I said, with our age group, you are getting a lot of what Mom's talking about. Now, before I dive into negative reinforcement, let's kind of review on positive reinforcement. I'm adding something to increase the behavior. Now, this isn't negative, does not mean bad. If positive means I'm adding something, then negative means I'm taking away. So now I'm taking away something to increase behavior. You have a headache and you're not feeling very good. I think I got something here that where I put it at. Maybe I moved it around. No, I guess I moved it around. You have a headache and you take Tylenol and it gets rid of that headache. Are you going to do that a lot? Yeah, because it worked. So you take Tylenol to remove a headache, and you're going to increase that behavior because you got rid of something you didn't like. My car, I don't know about y'all's cars, has an annoying buzzer if I don't put my seatbelt on. Now, I should wear my seatbelt because it is the law, but I also put my seatbelt on to get rid of the annoying buzzer. So I'm going to keep doing that to get rid of that. Like I just said, positive reinforcement. I'm adding something to increase that behavior. Negative reinforcement, I'm taking away something that I don't like, and I'm going to increase that behavior because it worked. We're still talking about reinforcement. We're trying to increase the behavior, but now I'm going to add something, and now I'm going to take away something. Money. I get that money, it increases my behavior in the future. I'm going to keep going to work because I keep getting paid for it. My time is getting paid for. I'm going to keep going to work. Negative reinforcement, I have that cold or I have that whatever. I'm scared to death to cough right now with everything going on, but I have that cough and I take something to get rid of it. I'm adding something pleasant, but now I'm taking away something unpleasant. Got the headache, it's unpleasant. I take Tylenol, I get rid of it. Seatbelt buzzer, it's unpleasant. Put my seatbelt on, it gets rid of it. The baby's crying. I do something to get rid of it. You know, food, hold, coddle, been forever since I had a baby. But we do those things to get rid of the crying. And we keep doing those things because we know it worked. This is where school suspension kind of gets mixed up here. Does the kid want to be at school? If he doesn't, and he got taken out, he's going to probably do it again because he doesn't want to be there. Now, negative punishment is a whole different can of worms. That's the idea. He wants to be there. We took him out and so forth. But negative reinforcement. And then look at the teacher. Challenging behaviors. We removed him from the classroom. He went home. What are we going to do more often? Makes you have a whole new outlook for school suspension when you look at the behavior side to it. Our behavior, as well as the child's, will increase because the child and the teacher are removing something unpleasant. You send that student home from school, that bad day, that bad disruptive day. Now, I'm not getting anybody's nerve, or I'm not trying to step on toes or anything. I've sent kids home. I've been there. But we've also always said that when he comes back, he'll be worse. We've all said that. Why do we say that? Because we knew how they felt about school. The more likely the behaviors come to classroom staff, their behaviors will increase. So let's look at the scenario again. Does a child want to be at school? And if he doesn't, then removing him is going to increase. If he wants to be at school, then removing him would decrease. That's not always the case. And then you start getting into reinforcing. You know, behavior goes where reinforcement really flows. We do things that's more reinforcing than punishing. So the behavior will increase, the intensity will increase to go home. Now, punishment. Now we're trying to look at things that decrease a behavior. You know, for the last hour, we talked about how we're trying to increase the behavior. We're going to add something pleasant. We're going to take away something unpleasant, but we're going to increase the behavior. Now our goal is to decrease the behavior. That's our goal. Reinforcement makes it go up. Punishment wants the behavior to go down. Now this only works in the theory. In theory, if the strategy is effective, then it'll decrease or increase. That's why we're not looking for band-aids. We're looking for natural reinforcers or punishers to help with desired behaviors. We're pairing up things. This is why we don't really need to keep doing these grocery lists of strategies. Have we tried this? Have we tried this? Have we tried this? Have we tried this? Let's get more specific of what's going on. You know, that's why I've really pushed this year on doing assessments. I can't do it for every kid because it's really only for a certain, you know, it's really for your top kids. And then we'll spend more time on classroom management, more time on teaching, more time on other things. But a Band-Aid isn't going to fix anything. I need to find out the core. Why is it going on? And then we can discuss how we're going to fix it. Now, these punishers are just like the reinforcers. They're kind of the same stuff going on here. Unconditioned, you were never taught. You just know you don't like these things. There are certain smells and certain odors and certain pain and certain things that you just know no one's ever taught you you don't like. Just like reinforcers, unconditioned reinforcers. No one had to teach you that you liked to breathe, and no one had to teach you that you like to eat food and how you need sleep. You were never taught. Now, conditioned punishers are kind of funny. And it's also just like conditioned reinforcer. We're pairing it with something. Conditioned reinforcer, that praise, I paired it with that whatever, and then now eventually I could use the praise by itself. Well, punishment, think of a cat. He gets on the table and then a pan drops off or a cup knocks off, and that sound scares him. So now every time he hears a cup fall on the ground, the cat's all like, oh my gosh, that cup, that sound had been paired with getting on the table. So he shouldn't be on the table. Conditioned punisher right there in effect. So you take away the clap. In this case, you add yelling with a clap sound, and you take away the yelling, that clap should be effective. Or that yelling should be effective. They're conditioned. I don't know about the whole electric shock thing, but the theory behind it is it's now it becomes conditioned. Every time that if you're in a mental institution or however they use them, I know it's big time frowned upon in electrical shock and applied behavioral world. There are some people who are still doing it, but the idea is you pair it with those behaviors that are really inappropriate, and you pair it with that shock, and the shock by itself takes it away. But I'm not getting in that discussion because I'm not a big fan of that. Reprimands are huge and widely used as a conditioned punisher, general conditioned punisher. It's been paired with just about everything. The scowls, the head shakes, the frowns, and all those things. Thing about reprimand is it only works if the behavior decreases. So getting onto someone's case nonstop doesn't always, if it's not decreasing behavior, it's probably not working. And here's the thing too, the more we're around something, the more we get used to things. If I lived on an island that had a volcano and it erupted every day, in the beginning, I'd be fearing for my life. After a while, I get used to it. I grew up in Kansas and I moved to Louisiana. In the beginning, the heat and the humidity, it just, I got used to it. So your intensity that you're picking up, because it's losing its effect, there's a reason why it's losing its effect. Nothing you're doing wrong, it's just losing effect. The intensity of the punishment. I also want to do a little disclaimer right here. Applied behavior analysis, we push toward reinforcement first, and if that doesn't work, then we start looking at punishment. I'm not saying punishment doesn't work, and I'm not saying punishment shouldn't be used. I'm just saying reinforcement is what we look at first. But nonetheless, intensity of punishment is just like reinforcement. It should begin with a high intensity, and then we back up. That's why I want to do reinforcement first, because you don't want to start out with a high intensity of punishment. But they also can recover to pre-punished levels. And this is where we get mad as teachers. I just got on to you. I just said something to you. Whatever to you. And then the behavior comes back. So the punishment was wild. The H word is, like I said earlier, they got used to it. So they got used to the punisher occurred. They're used to yelling at them all the time. They're used to always being in trouble. They're used to it. They can discriminate between the punishment when they're in trouble and when they're not. They know the difference. The punishment behavior is reinforced inadvertently, and staff training, sometimes lack of it. It affects your punishment. It affects a lot of things. It's nothing against early childhood, nothing against school age, but training is a big deal. And sometimes we get training and we don't use it, and then we lose it, or we're not engaged, and then we signed off, and then because you got training doesn't mean you're a pro. If you apply it, you have a better chance. You want to reinforce the target behavior. We've been talking about that the entire afternoon so far. We're looking at what we want them to do. So if you mispunish or you misreinforce, then the target behavior or inappropriate behavior gets reinforced. The effectiveness of the punishment is modulated by the reinforcement contingencies maintain the problem. In other words, how you handle it is what you get reinforced, is what reinforces the behavior, good and bad. So, what are we trying to target? What behavior are we looking for? Hopefully appropriate. There's also side effects to punishment. Emotional and aggressive reactions. Aggressiveness breeds aggressiveness. You know, modeling and imitation, guys. Do this, do this, do this. That's not modeling or imitation. Modeling and imitation, the kids learn skills they didn't know before by watching us. So we got 3 and 4 and 5-year-olds, and we're teaching them how to be aggressive. And then we're getting upset with them for being aggressive. It's double-edged sword right there. Escape and avoidance. Don't tell me we don't escape and avoid people we don't like. Don't tell me we don't escape and avoid things that are unpleasant to us. There's a scary dog on my wife and I's walking around. We've learned to avoid it. We have a coworker that drives us crazy. We've learned to avoid them. Behavior contrast. When they're not around, we go crazy. When they're around, we do what we're supposed to be. Behavior contrast, kind of the substitute teacher thing. When the teacher's in the classroom, we do what we're supposed to do, and the stuff comes in, and then we forget what we've learned. Yeah, whatever we do, our kids pick up on it in a minute. Punishment may involve modeling that undesirable behavior. I mean, punishment's not perfect. It creates harmful side effects, which is the reason why we want reinforcement first. But escape and avoidance. Everyone says spanking, spanking, spanking. I deserved my licks when I was a kid, every single one of them. But I also learned to avoid my dad because he became an unpleasant stimulus. I only went to him and I got in trouble a lot. And your coworker, your boss is always getting onto your case. You're going to learn, first you're going to escape it, and then you're going to learn to avoid it. We have kids who have emotional and aggressive reactions from how they're being treated. They also learn a lot, like a sponge, in our age group. But the behavior contrast, it's real. I think we even forget about that a lot. Mom and dad, and at school, it's the age-old battle between teachers versus parents will go on forever. I think it'll never go away. But if mom and dad they have their thumb on the kid and they can't do anything, then they get to go to school and they go wild. In our eyes, that's a behavior contrast. Mom's always getting on to him for sucking his thumb. And so he won't do it at home. He's going to suck his thumb at school. Behavior contrast is real. It's real as can be. Those emotional and aggressive reactions. Aggression breeds aggression. And what's scary is our kids learn at a young age these things. We can't control what happens at home. But we also forget that there's a lot of people in our area, at least in my neck of the woods, where poverty and trauma are a big thing. And I'm not trying to give them a free pass to what they're doing, but there has to be a different way. Like I said, escape and avoidance. Do we wait till a person's gone, the aggressor, and then continue the behavior all over again? I mean, I love my wife, but when she gets on to me for how I eat or how I eat this or how I eat that, when she's gone, I probably eat more than I should in the cabinet. I mean, I love my wife to death, but
Dana says this is true, and our children pick up on it, the escape and avoidance.
they do. And it's not so much for teaching them escape and avoidance. Do we escape and avoid unpleasant things? I mean, we do. And we're lying to ourselves if we expect the kids not to. Behavior contrast. You know, parents are gone for the weekend. We're gonna throw a party. I think I was really bad in college. Behavior contrast. Looking back at it now, if my mom went to work and I only had to deal with my dad, you know, my dad was never Mr. Mean person. I just identify him as when I got in trouble. But I knew when I got older how my dad was, and I would do things when my mom wasn't home. You know, thumb sucking. Mom and dad strict at home. At school, what's going to happen? You know, we get so mad when our stuff doesn't in. We get so mad as educators when our stuff doesn't go home. The teachings and the social emotional and the life skills. But then we get 10 times madder when their stuff comes to school. It's behavior contrast. It's a two-way street. Positive punishment interventions. Positive punishment, like I said earlier, is we're adding something. We're going to add something unpleasant, and we're going to hope and decrease the behavior. Reprimands is probably the most commonly used thing. No, stop. Response blocking is physically intervening to stop it. We really want to use it with like chronic hand mouthing or pica, where they eat things. I just had an idea the other week about something to do with my behavior specialist. We were talking about how a student was chewing on things and chewing on things and chewing on things. This is response blocking. I've now physically blocked the response of putting something in my mouth. Just that simple. Now, negative punishment, we are taking away something they like, something pleasant, and we're helping to stop that behavior. We're going to remove something they like, and we're going to decrease that behavior in the future. This is the idea behind school suspension. Like I said earlier, if they don't want to be at school, then we're going to increase that behavior in the future. We're probably going to increase the intensity of that behavior in the future. So, you know, when we do implementation, we're going to think of two basic things: timeout or response cost. Timeout, we all know what timeout is. We could put Johnny in the corner, put Johnny over here, take stuff away from Johnny. We're removing reinforcement.
So this is why the assessments for the positive reinforcement to find out the things that the child likes is important, I think.
Right.
So that we can know what positive thing to take away from them for the negative punishment will be without suspending them from school.
Right. Once you know what they like and you know what they want to work for, now you take those things away. Now you should be decreasing in behavior. There's a guy named Greg Hanley, and he's my new favorite behavior guy. And he came up with this thing years ago, and he's working on this new assessment thing, and I'm trying to learn more about it. But nonetheless, he has this interview he does with the parents. And he asks mom and dad, what do you do to stop the behavior? Now, he's not asking what they do to cave in. He's asking what they do to stop the behavior. And by asking that question, he now has learned reinforcement. So when he does his thing, he now knows what reinforcer turns on and turns off that behavior. Now, in a classroom of 20, we can't really be doing some scientific research and try to turn on and turn off some behaviors. But when we find out from mom and dad, the guardian, and the aunt, uncle, and whoever, what they do to turn it off, even a teacher, that's a reinforcer. Obviously, we don't want to turn on the behavior, but if we can turn it on and turn it off, then we know it's also reinforcing. I had a kid, mom said that scratching arms was like putty to him, and he would do anything to get it, turn the behavior on, and once he got it, he turned off those negative behaviors. So you're right. We do all those things to find out what we can do in the forefront, what they're willing to work for, what turns on, turns off those behaviors. And then we can start teaching tolerance and start teaching delayed, because we don't always want to give them that all the time. And we could do that tolerance and acceptance training and all those things to help them out. Great questions, great feedback, guys. I really appreciate it. We have non-exclusion timeout. Non-exclusion means we're not taking the kid out of the classroom. Now, first of all, I really hope we're not doing that, and I did not like that when school-age people did that. You're going to put a kid in the hallway, and who's watching the kid now? Nobody. So, non-exclusionary timeout, we're leaving the kid in the classroom, we're leaving the kid in the setting, or at least nearby. We're removing those things that he likes, and he's still there. This could be he stays in the block center and loses the blocks. I mean, doesn't have to go to a certain chair, but we're leaving him in the area, but we're moving reinforcement. Non-exclusionary timeout is we're not removing, we're just taking away reinforcement. There's a strategy called timeout, time in ribbon. When they have the ribbon on, they can receive reinforcement. And then when they take off, and then when you remove that ribbon, they can no longer receive reinforcement. It's called time in, time out ribbon. I've personally never done it. I think it would work with our age group. I really think it would, because they would know because just having it, they'd all want to have it. They'd want to be reinforced. Types of non-exclusionary timeouts is plain ignoring and terminating specific reinforcer contact. Ignoring doesn't work, folks. It is a concept, so I will share it with you guys, but ignoring doesn't work. If I ignore a bill collector, will the bill go away? No, it will not go away. If we teach the class to ignore his laughing or his jokes, it's not going to go away. So you have to do something along with extinction, along with plain ignoring, because just ignoring the problem is not going to make it go away. I think it's really important to pair that with a teachable skill. Terminate specific reinforcer contact. Like that teacher right there in the picture. He's playing with something, she removes something, and he can't get that back until he does something. Right there in the moment. Contingent observations, kind of hilarious. It's that he gets to see everybody else playing, but he can't do it. Please don't take away recess. Please don't. We make these kids sit in chairs enough. We make these kids do this enough. Don't take away the recess. A director I worked for at a provider before I came to co-op, she did not like losing recess. When I taught third grade, I hardly ever took away recess. I want my kids to play. And it was very beneficial to me as a teacher when my kids got to run around and get their giggles out and get all their whatever out. There has to be a better way. This is probably contingent, probably observations, probably you're one with the kids in the classroom in the chair and watches everybody else. Partition or select timeout, they're supposed to be in trouble, but obviously they're not. But it's the same theory. They can still see the fun going on. They're just not allowed to be involved. And exclusion timeout, you're physically removing the child from the area. This is why you don't want to take a kid to their bedroom when they're in trouble. There's a lot of reinforcers in that bedroom. You want to put them somewhere, not exclusionary. You're physically removing that kid. We have a timeout room. I hope we don't have a timeout room. One of those things where I have to share with you, but it's not so much. It's a concept. But a timeout room is that room. I think it could work on the basis of if you have a staff member in there with a child, and it's in a secure room with limited objects, and he can get his wiggles out, get his tension out, get his frustration out, and then we calm him down, relax him, and bring him back. But I just don't think it's a room just to say we don't want to deal with them. I don't like that idea. I was at a clinic and we had a room where we would send clients and we would go with the client and then get their tension out, and it worked. But then we quickly go right back. It was not an all-day deal. It's probably like a 5-minute thing. Time in, setting, removed for participants, same thing. You're physically removing the client. I know I've mentioned it before, and I kind of want to talk about it again. School suspension. It's kind of my little soapbox deal because it's a big deal, and I don't think it's talked about enough. It only works if they want to be at school. And I can't say that enough. It only works if they want to be at school. And we have 3 and 4-year-olds who it's their first time in school and they don't want to be there and they want to be with mom, or home is more reinforcing and they got all this and all that, whatever. I'm not here to tell you how the home life is. I'm here just to tell you if home's more reinforcing than school, that's where they want to be. So school suspension only works, like I said, if they want to be at school. The suspension numbers for preschool are through the roof. I downloaded them last year and the numbers were atrocious. And then they go to kindergarten and they're magically cured from all these inappropriate behaviors? I don't think so. I think we overdiagnose and we overblame these behaviors, these problems, these whatever. And then you want to get more into it, we blame boys first. You know, of course, this presentation message on didn't say a lot of Susie. You know, we always look at boys over girls. And the scary thing even more is we look at African American boys over the other boys. Why is that? You know, it's an implicit bias that needs to go away, not because of the current, climate going on, but I've noticed it since I started preschool. I noticed the boy thing when I started teaching. So negative punishment versus negative reinforcement. Negative reinforcement works if they don't want to be there, then they're going to increase that behavior to go to the office or go home or do something. If they want to be there, then their behaviors will decrease. But it doesn't happen a lot. There's a theory called matching law. And I think I said it earlier. Behavior goes where reinforcement flows. That means I like to go places and do things that I get something out of it. I think you guys are the same way. Doesn't make us selfish people. We just like reinforcement. Kohl's is reinforcing. Walmart's reinforcing. Well, I think the pickup is more reinforcing than one side. But nonetheless, our behavior, we choose reinforcing things. We don't purposely wake up one day and say, I want to have a bad day. I want to go find me the most unpleasant thing on the earth, and that's where I'm going to go hang out today. No, we don't. We go out of our way to look for pleasant, reinforcing things. So do our kids. Think about grandma's house. When we were kids, grandma's house was not as reinforcing as it is today. But grandma's house. My 13-year-old loves going to grandma's house. Very reinforcing. Of course it is compared to my house. And then you look at my 9-year-old. He's at his mom's house and then my house. And he starts to decide which one's more reinforcing. It's matching law. There's some behavior contrast there, but probably matching law. So think about the ways a child earned attention from the teacher and got another toy from a child in an appropriate way. It worked before, didn't it? So he's going to probably do it again. It was inappropriate to us, but it probably worked for him. Using timeout effectively. We want to enrich the time in environment. We want our classrooms, period, to be reinforcing. To have so much fun going on and learning going on where they don't want to miss out. We want our kids to be there. That's a big thing too about going to school. We want to have a classroom be fun and they're not bored. When they're bored, they find things to do. When they find those things to do, then we don't like those things they're doing. We need to make school fun. Define the behavior that will lead to timeout. What behavior do I need to avoid? But I like the good behavior game. My version of it. Look for things that we're supposed to do. Determine the form and variations of timeout. Obtain permission. Like I said, some places don't like it during recess. Make sure your center and your facility, check how they are about timeout too. I know there's a big push for safe centers and safe zones and all that stuff. Make sure you know your school's policies and your center's policies on timeout. Explain the procedure with the child. Keep it short. And then that's it. Apply timeout consistently. If you are going to use it, be consistent with it. But also remember, this is a punisher. And the more they get it, the more they're probably going to avoid it. So you're going to probably have some side behaviors going on with this. You need to establish exit. You know, how long should I be in there? And how long should that behavior be away before I can go back? You also need to be careful too, where if they're having a rough moment in the center or on the playground or somewhere, and they want to get away, and you pull them out and put them in timeout, you have reinforced that behavior because they're having a rough time, and you help them get away from those kids. So you have to be aware of what's going on all the time. My references were my big Cooper book, my big behavior manual thing. I pull a lot from here too. This is called the ABA Visual Language. It breaks down a lot of concepts very easily, very manageable. And then, of course, I did have some videos, but from Psychor, that's more for me than you guys. I want to say that I did a 4-part deal and went more in depth in those 4 basic principles: positive, negative reinforcement, and so forth. I am willing to share today for you guys or those past sessions as well. I really hope the token board thing really helped out you guys with treasure box questions. If you want a copy of the PowerPoint, let me know and I'll tag you on it. Give Diana your information there, or just here's my email right here. Jot that down, email me, say, hey Patrick, could you email me today's PowerPoint or kind of a recording of today or those other sessions you did, and I will definitely share it. Have any questions, concerns, or comments, please let me know. I don't know how far away most of you guys are, but I do have a behavior health thing. No, I didn't record today. Did I? I don't think I recorded today. Well, I'll definitely get you if you guys email me. So Wendy, make sure you get my email, and because I'm gonna probably forget. I would forget my head if it was attached to me. To really be honest with you, so make sure you guys email me. Get my email down. I'll leave this slide up and let me know. I'll share whatever y'all want me to share. I'm willing to share it all. I'm here for you guys. Next week, I'm really excited about next week. Next week is antecedent strategies. We're going to look at strategies that stop things in the beginning. A lot of times we're trying to solve behaviors after the fact with consequence strategies. That's what the token board is. That's what the treasure chest is. We're trying to learn and shape through consequences, kind of like how we learn anyways. But next week, we're going to spend some time looking at the forefront. We're going to be proactive. We're going to try to be on top of everything. Will it stop everything? I don't think so, but we'll be more proactive versus waiting for something to happen. We do learn the consequences for most of what we do, so reinforcement does work. It's very effective, but we also learn through other events as well. I really appreciate y'all's feedback. I really, really do. I'm gonna try to do some more stuff as the year goes on. Just keep in touch with Diana. She's been wonderful. Child Care Aware is amazing. But keep in touch with her. I'm gonna try to do some stuff here at my co-op probably this summer. Definitely keep us and your thoughts for professional development. But like I said, next week we're gonna do antecedent strategies. I have a lot of those broken down even more, even broken than that too. It's just the more I've learned behavior in the last year, the more I've learned it's so much more than what we thought it was. I thought it was a certain type of strategy or a certain type of this, and only for autism people, and it's not. There's so much more. It's everything that we do, and it really makes a big difference when we start to look at how we do things and how our kids do things, and when we can solve the why they're doing it, then we can come up with a good strategy to correct these things. I need to come up with the tabulators. I would love to make these tabulators with you guys, but it's really hard to do it virtually. But I'll look for the YouTube video where it shows how to make one, or I'll just make one in video myself, and I'll just do that too. But I would really like to do a workshop on that with you guys, and just look at token boards and token group strategies and all that stuff too. I'm gonna keep talking in circles now. But I really appreciate you all, and I'll see you all next week. Last minute reminder: if you haven't put your name and your PDR number in, make sure you do that before you leave, so you can get credit from Diana. Otherwise, it's been a pleasure. Thank y'all so much. Hopefully, I'll see y'all next week.
Thank you.
Did you get everyone's information, Diana?
Yes, I did. So, and then I will email you about a reminder. Everybody's wanting the PowerPoints. So I'll email you a reminder, and then I'll get it out to everybody if that's okay.
I'll get to email it to you if you want.
That'd be fine. Yeah.
I did it all through Google, so if I start getting permission to share, then I'll know that you got it out to everybody.
Yeah, we're learning Google Docs and all that now too. So
I love it. I absolutely love it. I really do. But I appreciate you more than you'll ever realize, and I'll see you next week.
Well, we thank you so much, and see you next week.
All right.